Hello and welcome back, my dear students. Today, I'm going to take you into the world of literature, more precisely, into the world of poetry. When we talk of poetry, when we talk of literature, and when we talk of the few very celebrated authors of English literature, the first name that comes to our mind is William Shakespeare. Who hasn't heard of Bard of English literature? Who hasn't heard of William Shakespeare? Who doesn't know about him? William Shakespeare was born in England and he was a very popular English poet, actor, as well as a playwright. He was a performer, he was an actor, he was a writer, and whatever works he wrote are famous till today. People quote him for tragedies, people quote him for comedies, and also tragic comedies like Merchant of Venice. And many of his works have been turned into movies like Othello, Romeo and Juliet, and many more. His plays have been translated into every major language and are performed more often than any others. He is the one who has brought us fine scripts like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, and also wrote around 154 sonnets. His poem, All the World's a Stage, gained immense popularity right when it was written and introduced to the readers of his time. The World's a Stage. This poem was not individually written as a poem, but was included in As You Like It, a play written by William Shakespeare. This poem, All the World's a Stage, is actually an extract from Shakespeare's delightful comedy, As You Like It. This masterpiece is a moral commentary on life, written in an exceptionally exclusive style. This poem was said by a character, Jax, in Act 2, Scene 7 of As You Like It. Jack spoke this poem in the form of a soliloquy. Now, students, what is soliloquy? Soliloquy is a technique used in dramas and theatre where a person is speaking something aloud to himself and which generally has a meaning. You can also say that it's a monologue. In this soliloquy, Jack spoke of life of a human being that was divided into various stages and how a human being goes through the various stages. In this poem, All the World's a Stage, the poet compares the entire world to a stage, and all human beings, men and women, have been referred to as actors who are enacting their parts. According to the poet, our births and deaths are pre-decided, and each man merely takes on different roles during his lifetime. This was also known as the 7 stages of a man's life. The poem is so beautifully written, my students. It is so beautifully written that you can actually imagine everything that is written just like a movie running in front of your eyes. So I begin with the poem. It says, so let's begin with the poem. It says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. So what does it mean? Here we say that Shakespeare has made a comparison of a human being's life with the actors that are on a stage. Just the way an actor who comes on a stage has to play various parts. At times he may be a father, at times he may be a brother, at times he may be a lover, and just the way he keeps coming in, he performs on the stage, gives the performances, and exists. We human beings, in the same way, we come in this world, we have our roles designed. For example, at times we are somebody's son, somebody's daughter, we may be somebody's brother, somebody's grandson, and eventually we pass various stages of our lives. And these ages have been divided into 7 stages. Here the speaker Here, the poet is talking about life and death and how they are inevitable. What we should pay attention to here is the plural form of exit and entrance has been used in the poem, which indicates that the poet isn't talking only about life and death. He is also talking about human relationships, how people come and go in our lives. Relations are made and broken and then again re established. So, in this drama of life, each one of us play seven distinct roles. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being seven ages. So, in this part, the poet says that a man plays many parts throughout his lifetime. It means that the different roles that we play in our life as a child, as a parent, as a sibling, and many more. And the latter part of the line says that a person plays these several parts stretched over seven acts, which are the seven different ages. So, in these lines, we see a close and clever association between play and life. Now, these are the seven stages of our life that the poet is talking about. So, now we are going to study about each one of the stage in detail. So, here, at first, the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Puking means vomiting. So, the first stage is that of infancy. When a child is born, he is completely oblivious to the cares of the world. He is dependent on his mother and caretakers. Eyes and vomits in the arms of a nurse. So he's just a helpless child learning to survive. He's totally dependent. And why he is puking, why he is vomiting? Because children, you know that the digestive system of an infant, of a newborn baby, is very weak. So that's the reason many a times he vomits and pukes. Now let's check out the next few lines. And then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. So here comes the second stage. But before I move on, I would like you to remember the time when you first joined your school. The first time when you went to school, how was your reaction? Were you happy about going to school, or were you crying? Were you sad? Or were you of those kind who used to think of a new reason of not going to school every day? For example, a stomach ache, or for example, you're not feeling well today. Such kind of excuses you must have heard of. For example, I have not done my homework today, so I can't go. Or secretly wishing that you must miss your school bus before you can actually go to school. So, well, the second stage is that of a school going child. And the poet says, and then the whining school boy. That is, the boy is crying, howling, trying his best so that the mother may not send him to school. And with this satchel means a school bag. So he is having his school bag. He's trying very hard not to go to school, but the mother or the people around him were adamant. So he had to finally walk. But the pace with which he is walking is that of a snail. He is walking with a snail's pace, as slow as a snail, not wanting, not willing to go to school, and creeping unwillingly to school. So this is the second stage of a person's life. Now, children, tell me why the child is not willing to go to school. Now, because at this stage, the child is introduced to the world of order, discipline, and routine. The carefree days are over now. Here, one more thing I would like to tell you, my dear students, that the concept of schooling has seen a great change since the time of Shakespeare. In those days, school was a forced practice, usually overseen by the church. Depending on the status of the parents, a child used to go to school, either to a grammar school or monastic school. And schools used to begin at sunrise and lasted the whole day. Schools used to begin at sunrise and used to last the whole day, and punishments were normal and often harsh. While modern schools are quite different. Nowadays, you see in the schools, the approach is totally different. Still, some kids whine and complain about going to school, but many actually love school because because of the different approach, that is play while you learn approach. Modern day schools have taken a holistic approach towards education. Nowadays, the schools have taken a holistic approach towards education. Children are taught through role plays, visual presentations, demonstrations, and games. And now, this drastic change, that is the virtual classroom, virtual teaching, has started now. So, modern education has extended the boundaries of learning. So, now let's move on to the next stage. So, here is the next stage, that is stage 3, that is the most colorful stage of a person's life, that is the youth. So now the educated youth is in the height of teenage when adolescence sets in. Okay, so this stage is that of a lover. So the poet says, and then the lover, sighing like a furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Now the child is in his teens. He witnesses new changes in his mind and body. His heart is set on love. For him, the world is all roses and cherry blossom. He sees beauty in each and every aspect of life. This is the period when he witnesses beauty and the feeling of love and infatuation. Very true. When we talk of love, we do not mean love that happens today through social networking sites or SMS or messages or through video conferencing. Love that happened in those days, in those times where the lover was hardly able to meet the beloved, where in the memory of the beloved, the lover wrote an entire ballad. Now, what is a ballad, students? A ballad is a love song written in the memory of a beloved and dedicated, here it is dedicated to the mistress's eyebrow. Imagine the eyebrow, the beauty of that eyebrow that the mistress would be having, and the entire ballad was written in the memory of it. And here the lover has been described as sighing like a furnace. The long breath that the lover takes, as hot as a furnace. What do you mean by sighing? Sighing, to take and then let out a long, deep breath. So the lover is sighing like a furnace. Now, it means that in the memory of the beloved, the lover writes a love song, a ballad, and he is missing his beloved. And that is the third stage of a person's life. And now we will move on to the fourth stage. Fourth stage and the toughest stage of a person's life. So the next stage is that of a young soldier. The tender lover slowly transforms into a soldier in the battlefield of life. Now, why Shakespeare calls this stage as the soldier's stage? Soldier in today's context doesn't really mean that anybody who goes and joins the country's army. It precisely means an age where you can do anything for the sake of reputation. Reputation, be it your own reputation, be it the reputation of your family, be it the reputation of your country, like a soldier does. But for the sake of the reputation, you fight, you go along to all the extremes, and you defend your loved ones. So the fourth stage is that of a soldier. So here the poet says, then a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard Jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. So Shakespeare says that in this stage, the person becomes a soldier bearded like a bard. Bard means leopard, it's a short form of leopard, a very fierce animal. And the soldier is supposed to be bearded. At that point of time, in Shakespeare's time, beard was a sign of manliness, was a sign of bravery. A soldier who is full of strange oath. So the next stage is that of a young soldier. The tender lover slowly transforms into a soldier in the battlefield of life. Now, why Shakespeare calls this stage as the soldier's stage? Soldier in today's context doesn't really mean that anybody who goes and joins the country's army. It precisely means an age where you can do anything for the sake of reputation. Reputation, be it your own reputation, be it the reputation of your family, be it the reputation of your country, like a soldier does. But for the sake of the reputation, you fight, you go along to all the extremes, and you defend your loved ones. So the fourth stage is that of a soldier. So here the poet says, then a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the bard. When you are young, you have big dreams in life, you want to achieve big things in life, and you want to fight for your reputation, for your family's reputation. So, full of strange oath, he makes promises to himself. He decides upon, he talks of things. He wants to do big things for his country. Like it is mentioned, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel. So, he cannot tolerate anything. He's very short tempered. He cannot tolerate anybody saying anything against the country. You talk to the soldiers of any country, the soldier cannot listen to anything against the country. Even not only the soldiers, anybody who loves his country would definitely not listen to anything against his country. And for that, a person can go to any extent. So that's how the fourth stage of a person's life is. When you can go to the extent of quarreling and fighting with people for the sake of your country, for the sake of your reputation. Then seeking the bubble reputation. The word bubble here has been tagged along and written along with the word reputation. I want to draw your attention to this, that it is called bubble reputation. It is called bubble reputation. Why? Because reputation is a very short-lived thing. Just like a bubble, it's a very short-lived thing. Today, for example, we'll take an example. For example, today you are a good student and you have a reputation of being a very, very good and regular student. But tomorrow, if you stop doing your work on time, if you stop submitting your assignment on time, what happens? Your reputation changes. Yes or no? Your reputation changes. Your reputation then becomes Your reputation changes. Your reputation then becomes from a good student to a not so good student. So this is as short-lived as a bubble. Till the time the bubble has air, it is there, and then it can burst any time. Whereas character is a long-lived thing. But when you are young, we do not realize it, and we go on to all the extremes, fighting for our bubbled reputation. And then he says, even in the cannon's mouth. So here the poet says that even when the soldier is standing in front of the cannon's mouth, even when he is facing danger, he knows that he is going to be blown up. He will still fight for the sake of the reputation of his country. So now let's move on to the fifth stage. And then the justice in fair round belly, with good caponed line, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. So the fifth stage is concerning the justice or the judge. After you pass your youth, you become wiser. So the fifth stage talks about where the person becomes middle aged, he is experienced, he has a round belly, which indicates that he has put on weight. He is seen as a judge, passing on judgment and protecting the people with law and order. Now, here, my dear students, this is again a generalization. The professions chosen by Shakespeare here are not necessarily how people lived their life, nor is it any indicator that the same order is followed in the professions. Okay, so the justice is shown as round bellied, which indicates again, I'll tell you that, which indicates that he has put on weight. He is a well to do man eating chicken, which the speaker here says that is lined in his belly in the form of fat. His eyes are severe and his beard is of formal cut, which indicates his stern nature, that he is very stern. He is full of wisdom and modern examples. So that's the fifth stage, where a man becomes serious, where a man shares his experiences. He's full of wise instances and modern saws. Wise instances because every person undergoes lots of experiences in life. And through the meeting of those experiences, we tend to share those experiences for the benefit of other people. And here, in this stage, we would have a lot of young fathers who would give advice to their children and tell them that this is what they have done, and this is what they have done in their life, this is what they have gone through in life, and also tell them that this is what they should be doing in something that needs to be avoided, because that comes out of experience. That is the fifth stage of a person's life. So this sixth stage can be called as the beginning of old age, or the old age precisely. When we talk of old age, they say that it is like the age of a person's childhood. In old age, a person becomes weak, our overall personality becomes weak, we are once again dependent, a little child, and we want help from others all the time. And the manly voice, the commanding voice that the person once had, now changes into childish treble. When a person becomes old, he loses his teeth. The commanding voice changes into childish treble. And when the person speaks, it feels as if a whistling sound is coming out of the mouth. So, old age, that is old age. And everybody faces it. In the old age, one has spectacles on the nose and pouch on side. You must have seen your grandparents, you must have seen old people keeping their belongings very close to them, because that gives them a sense of security. They do not want to let the people think that they are dependent. But the old age, once again, in the old age, once again, a person starts turning towards childishness in terms of dependency, in terms of physicality, in terms of emotional dependency. So after the old age, we have the last stage of all that ends this eventful history. We call it the eventful history because every person undergoes hell lot of experiences in one's life, and those experiences are there in the form of events. Good events, bad events, surprises, shocks. And with the collection of those events, the person weaves a life and this strange, eventful history. It is strange because life is unbelievable. It is strange because life is unbelievable. Once you become old and when you look back, you realize what all you have undergone through, and therefore it becomes unbelievable. And eventful because we undergo so many events in our life, and history because that is past. So, the last stage of life that ends this eventful history is second childishness and near oblivion. So, the poet says, last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Sans is the French word for without. This is second childishness, when a person hardly remembers his own self, the people around him, and become as dependent as a child is. Without teeth, sans teeth is without teeth. Sans eyes is the eyesight becomes very weak. He can hardly see. Sans taste, you cannot eat anything. Sans everything. Here sans everything is very meaningful because it pertains to your family, to your beloved, to the people around you. They may not be there at the time when you become very, very old. This is the stage in life when you have actually lived your life, and then you are not left with anything with you, neither your health nor your emotions nor the people who have been there with you throughout. And after that we have death. This last stage of life sounds very sad and miserable. Yes, but it can be made cheerful and happy by reliving the pleasant experiences which a human has faced throughout his journey of life. He can share those memories with his family, friends, and neighbors. This would make him feel happy and satisfied that he lived a fulfilling life. So, my dear students, these are the 7 stages of a man's life, according to Shakespeare. That is, infancy, childhood, teenage, youth, middle age, old age, and then dotage. So here in this poetry you have seen that how our entrance is described as our birth and our exit is our death. The poem highlights the transient nature of life and the futility of man's attempts to amass wealth and gain fame. For we leave this world empty-handed and as helpless as we had entered it. We don't bring anything when we are born, and when we die, we don't take anything with us. Living life by accepting what is and living with grace and dignity is the best way to play our parts. Now, dear children, the poetic devices I will be discussing in the online session. But before I end my session here, this video, I would like to share something with you all. Yes, here, this is the 7 stages of man's culture. As you can see, the statue represents a head from each stage in the monologue. Infancy, childhood, the lover, the soldier, justice, old age, then dot age. Now, one more photograph I would like to share with you. This one, you can see here, this photo is a close-up view of the inscription at the bottom of this famous sculpture of 7 stages of man in London. You can see the lines here, the words from the famous All the World's a Stage. Now, my dear students, it's time to go. I would like to wind up the session here now. Do look out for more videos. Until then, stay good and keep learning.